Why is it so easy to root for characters like the Joker or Walter White compared to the good guys like Superman, Hank, or Matt or Eater Lad? And does rooting for the bad guy mean that you're a bad person yourself? To a certain extent, yes. But of course, it's not that black and white. Everyone has a yin and a yang. Which anti-heroes you root for can reveal parts of yourself that you may not even be aware of yet. This is the power of the anti-hero, a type of character that has become increasingly popular in modern media. It's a protagonist who lacks conventional heroic qualities such as courage, morality, or idealism. They may be flawed, conflicted, or even downright evil. However, they still possess some redeeming features that make them appealing to the audience. They could perhaps support a noble cause, know a tragic backstory, or have a charismatic personality that makes them relatable or sympathetic. Some of the most famous examples of anti-heroes in film and television are Walter White from Breaking Bad, Dexter Morgan from Dexter, and of course, Joker from the Joker. These characters are all criminals who commit violent and immoral acts, but also have complex and compelling stories that draw us in and make us care about them. But why do we root for these anti-heroes? What does it say about us as viewers? And what are the psychological effects of watching them? Does it really make us evil? To know why you enjoy seeing bad guys get away with their evil deeds, you have to understand 3 different ways in which your mind is conditioned to like the anti-hero. The first reason is pretty surface level. Anti-heroes are often unpredictable and thrilling because they break the rules and conventions of their genre. They usually have an ambiguous goal, enemy, moral code, or outcome. They tend to face internal conflicts that are hard to resolve by their skills or abilities. The second reason why we root for evil is because these heroes are more influential and impactful than the traditional ones. Traditional heroes often have a limited scope, message, and effect. They inspire admiration, respect, or gratitude, but not much else. Anti-heroes, on the other hand, have the ability to challenge our assumptions and expectations by presenting us with alternative perspectives or realities. The third and most important reason why we root for the anti-hero is because they are often more realistic and human than traditional heroes. The usual heroes are portrayed as idealized and simplified versions of ourselves, who always do the right thing and overcome any obstacle. They represent our aspirations and fantasies, but also create a distinctive gap between us and them. We may admire them, but at the same time, we'd be able to feel inferior to our near-perfect counterparts. Anti-heroes, on the other hand, are more complex and nuanced versions of ourselves, who have flaws and weaknesses and make mistakes. They represent our realities and struggles. This way, they create a stronger connection between us and them. But why do we connect more with evil traits? According to psychologist Carl Jung, we all have a shadow side, which is the part of ourselves which we repress or deny because it's socially unacceptable or morally wrong. The shadow side contains our negative emotions, impulses, desires, and traits that we are ashamed of or afraid of. It's often projected onto others who we perceive as enemies or threats. You may find yourself identifying with the character not for their positive aspects, but because they're flawed in ways similar to you. Therefore, anti-heroes we resonate with can help us confront our shadow side by showing us that it's not something to be feared or hated, but something to be acknowledged and integrated. So far, we've seen the main reasons why we root for anti-heroes, but what are the consequences of doing so? Some people end up idolizing these characters, which leads to them adopting some of the negative traits that come with them. In one particular case, in 2011, a man named Mark Twitchell was convicted for the murder of John Brian Altinger. His trial was special because Mark was supposedly inspired by Dexter Morgan, a fictional killer and anti-hero. Of course, most of us don't go on a killing spree after watching a fictional TV show, but the effects might still apply to us to a lesser extent. So, with that in mind, what exactly does rooting for the villain do to us? The answer is not so simple. To understand why, we'll have to take a closer look at the sorts of anti-heroes you may encounter. According to psychologist Robert Hare, there are 2 types of anti-heroes, primary and secondary. Primary anti-heroes are those who are born with a personality disorder that makes them lack empathy, remorse, or conscience. They are often psychopathic, narcissistic, or Machiavellian. Primary anti-heroes anti-heroes include Hannibal Lecter from The Silence of the Lambs and Patrick Bateman from American Psycho. Secondary anti-heroes are those who develop a personality disorder due to environmental factors that make them suffer trauma, abuse, or neglect. They become depressed, anxious, or paranoid and are driven by pain, anger, or revenge. Examples include Rorschach from Watchmen and Joker from The Joker. The type of anti-hero can affect how we root for them and how we feel about them. Primary anti-heroes may be more appealing to viewers who have dark traits themselves. To them, primary anti-heroes act as role models or allies who share their worldview. These viewers may also enjoy the thrill and excitement of watching primary anti-heroes do what they want without consequences. However, rooting for them might not be so good after all. Rooting for them reinforces antisocial tendencies, reduces their moral sensitivity, or increases their risk-taking behavior. Secondary anti-heroes may be more appealing to viewers who have empathy or compassion for others. They may see secondary anti-heroes as victims or friends who need their support and understanding, and also feel the sadness and anger of watching secondary anti-heroes suffer and lash out. This has a positive side effect. This way, they increase their awareness of social issues, enhance emotional intelligence, and motivate social action. Rooting for evil is not a straightforward phenomenon. There are different types of anti-heroes, viewers, contexts, and outcomes that affect how we root for them and how we feel about them. Rooting for evil has some negative aspects, but they also teach us that we should appreciate the diversity and complexity of human nature and human stories. We should recognize that there is no clear-cut distinction between good and evil, hero and villain, right and wrong, but rather shades of gray and nuances of perspective. We have to acknowledge that there is value and beauty in both the light and the dark sides of ourselves and others, and that they can complement and enrich each other. It is crucial to realize that there is potential and opportunity in both the success and failure of ourselves and others, and that they can inspire and challenge us.